because my aunties and my grandmother and all, they're all part of the religion, that organization. And my auntie, we'd go on Fridays and Sundays. It was just similar to being a Jehovah's Witness, but they had these really weird rules.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Cosmic Chats. We have a beautiful guest today, all the way from down under, Anabela. Figure it out is what she told me to call her last name. Figure it out. I was like, oh. For those of you who are new to the channel, this is Aware Meditation Inc. We have our section here called Cosmic Chats, where we get to learn a little bit about people's perceptions and how it changed. If you want to know about what the meditation is that we do, check out our ebook, Vedic Meditation Stories, which is free if you have Amazon Prime. It's 100% genuine stories from underrepresented groups of people who learnt the meditation, and it just didn't bring the hot person and all the money and all the riches. It actually helped them from, I don't know, committing suicide or being able to get off medication. So check out that ebook. And in the meantime, we're going to get back to the first question to ask Anabela in this fabulous, if I can look at the right place in the screen, about how she had a mum who was in a cult and loved it so much, she never ever wanted to leave. So, how would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never eaten one?
Taste of a banana, okay. Sweet. Soft. I don't know if that's a flavor quality, but sweet, soft, neutral. Monkey loving.
Neutral? Neutral is a taste.
I mean, you know, it's not spicy or bitter. You know, it's a very kind of mellow flavor.
Bland. It's bland.
It's not bland. A little bit bland, I guess.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put the bland factor of a banana?
I don't know, maybe a 4, 5. It does have a peculiar taste to it, very unusual. I mean, you can't really describe it because nothing else really tastes like banana.
Exactly. Hence the question. Forget the ink blots in psychology. Let's just do this question. Okay, so when did you have your first existential life crisis as a child?
As a child? God. Okay, that might have been when I was around 6 or 7. And I was living with my grandmother at the time. And then I moved to live with my parents. And that was a big change for me. Yeah.
So do you remember the whole time being with your grandmother?
I remember a lot of it. Because it was a very different it was a big transition.
So you didn't have a memory of being with your parents and then your grandmother and then going back. It was your grandmother and then your parents.
Well, it was more like my grandmother and my mum, because my mum was working all the time and didn't really see me that much. And then my father was in the war. Right, there was a war going on, and then
now, just for those who are listening, let's clarify the war.
Oh, okay. This is colonial war in Africa, and we're Portuguese. So, Dad, this was back a while now. Dad was, it's compulsory conscription in Portugal, so they all have to go away for years and do whatever they have to do in the army. And that's what was happening with Dad. And so I never saw him until I was about 6 or 7. And and then he came back from that. And I went to live with Mum and Dad. And I'd still see Grandma, but not, obviously not every day and all that sort of stuff.
And it was just you?
Just me. Yep. My brother came shortly after.
And shortly after is like within the year?
Yes, because he's only about 7 years younger than me. Yeah.
And so, did you look like your dad?
I did. I
did. So
did
you then start having these comments of, oh, you look just like your dad?
I still get them. I get them all the time from people who don't even haven't met me and know my dad, they'll go, "You are such and such's daughter, aren't you?" That's how much we look alike. Yes. And my brother is a spitting image of him as well.
Oh, wow. So both of you. So suddenly you move in with someone who you actually have a resemblance with. What about your personalities?
Very similar. Unfortunately. No. No, we.
So was there any sort of like change in identity or how you associated yourself with yourself when this happened?
Associated, sorry, what with myself?
Yourself, like how you had associated who you were, your identity before you lived with your dad, and that you look just like him.
There was a change. There was a change. I mean, I can't remember the details, but I was happy that I finally had a father, because everyone else had a father, kind of thing. I was a bit sad because I couldn't see grandma as much anymore. But as far as identifying myself, I guess there was more depth to me. You know, like I had someone else as a father figure now, and he had so many stories. Dad's a storyteller. He's like the funniest person I have ever met in my whole life, including all the comics that I know. And he can always see the light in the darkest of I mean, he was in the war, and very traumatized, but he can always see the light, in everything. And it's in the funniest way possible. So that was kind of a big kind of influence on me, maybe from that time on. Just, yeah.
And when you say that he had trauma from the war, did it affect the household?
Oh, well, yes. It wasn't a smooth sailing experience, obviously. It did. I mean, he never shared the gory stories. I mean, very little. Now, more recently now, but he mostly just wanted to be light about it. Forget about it and live in the moment and be with his kids, that kind of thing. But he would get into his darker, side. His darker side would come out, and he wouldn't be around very often. Also, when that happened, he would just take off, and we wouldn't see him for a while. But for a while, I mean, just days. Not.
Was that did you understand, or your mother understood that's what he was doing, or was it that Dad's disappeared? What's going on?
Oh, we all kind of got used to that. We learned to accept it, and that's just the way he was. Mum was very patient woman, and loved him to bits. She waited for him the whole time, and she still loves him, I think. I hope. Yeah, it was tough. It was very tough. Don't get me wrong, but it was also very funny. Very funny. He would be very inappropriate with everybody, like with his comedy. Yes, so much, like it would be almost scandalous. But that's how he dealt with his darkness, I think. Especially when he was uncomfortable with somebody, for whatever reason, he would just say the most inappropriate thing he could think of, and people would think that he was absolutely nuts, and maybe he was.
Was there something that you can remember that you actually thought was really funny?
Well, I don't know if I can repeat it here, but I do remember some things. I remember my mother speaking to we had a seamstress, because back then everybody made their own clothes in Portugal, because I grew up in Portugal. Well, anyway, I don't know if everybody made them, but we definitely made our own clothes. And this seamstress lady, she was very proper, and higher class, upper class kind of person. And she was talking to my mother, and my father was around that day, And my mother introduced them or whatever they were speaking. And he just came and told, out of nowhere, just told her a joke. And it was a toilet humor joke, like that. My mother was just aghast, shocked in horror, like what he was saying to and the lady was also very shocked. She just wasn't expecting it because there was no lead up to it. I don't know, something like that. And after my dad left, that lady said to my mum, "You need to leave this man."
And what did your mom say?
He is not right in the head. My mother hated the lady. She said, "No, there's nothing wrong with him."
That's funny. So you appreciated sense of humor and that there were some dark sides to it. With that experience with your father, what did you learn, or did you have a shift in your perception from living with that for a while?
What did I learn? Well, I learned that life wasn't all, fairy tales and because living with my grandmother, full of love, no ups and downs, just all happiness, like best 6 years of your life as a kid, which is, amazing. And I thank the heavens for it. And then going from that to dad, which was always up and down and crazy and funny and nuts. I learned, I don't know, I think I learned to be more resilient. Obviously, my eyes opened. My eyes opened, and I became a bit tougher. I think if I'd stayed with my grandmother, I would have been a very sheltered kid. And full of love, yes, but probably, it would have been difficult to integrate with society. And I stayed with her forever. I mean, at least, for a while. And with dad, it was like a rude awakening. It was almost, it was like, get ready for war, get ready for the outside world.
And then when your brother came on the scene, how did it shift?
Oh, I was very excited about having a brother. I couldn't wait for him to come out. Loved him to bits, still do, I do love my brother, even though we're a bit crazy with each other now. But I mean, how it changed me. I mean, I was the center of attention, obviously, and then it shifted to him, but I don't think it bothered me too much because I really liked him. And I liked just seeing him grow and play with him and all that sort of stuff. So that was.
And did it change? Did your dad's change behavior lessen when the little one was around, came into the world?
Not really. No. I mean, my brother loved my dad to bits. He finds him. They're all funny. Like my whole family. My mother's hilarious as well. She's just another nutcase. She is. And my brother is my brother's probably the funniest person in the whole family, but he doesn't do comedy or anything. I'm the least funny in the whole family, even my aunties. But
So how did you end up in Australia?
Well, my mother was part of this religious kind of cult thing. Okay, there's the plot thickens here. And my dad was really, my dad wasn't part of it, and he wanted to be asked not to be part of it. And he had an uncle here, a brother here in Australia, who was working here and kept asking my dad to come over, to join him. And my mum didn't want to because she had the cult thing, the religious thing. They call it cult. I mean, we call ourselves the cult. I do this in my act a bit. But they did call themselves the cult. I really don't know. Maybe it wasn't a bad word back then, you know. But I remember my auntie, because my aunties and my grandmother and they're all part of the religion, that organization. And my auntie would go on Fridays and Sundays. It was just similar to being a Jehovah's Witness, but they had these really weird rules. It was very Puritan kind of religion.
What's the weird rule?
Oh, like, you know, women could not, they could only wear long skirts. They had to cover themselves. They had to wear veils in church. We could never, you could never cut your hair. Like, women's hair was sacred. Like, you couldn't even pluck your eyebrows or shave, never shave, right? So that kind of thing. And, you know, like, couldn't marry outside of the religion. You know, it's an old sect. It's I can't, Pentecostal, I think it is. It's yeah, I don't know where it came from. But my mother and her sisters loved being in there, and so did my grandmother, because there was a lot of community. They didn't mind not cutting their hair. They had long hair anyway. There's a long tradition in my family of wearing long hair. That's, you know, my hair is quite long. And if I cut it, my mother will be devastated. And that's why I'm never allowed to cut it. Although I have cut it. And I look like Hillary Clinton. I know I'm no longer going to heaven. It's all right.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So anyway, my dad had enough of that, and he didn't like it.
So he figured he'd uproot you all to Australia?
Well, that was one of the reasons. He didn't want us to be part of that anymore. I mean, he went one. I remember he went one day to the service, and he slept through most of it. And
he snore loud.
I don't remember if he was snoring, but the whole congregation was just staring at him. He was just sleeping. And
that's when he really needed a veil, right? Because then no one would have known who it was.
yeah, yes. But anyway, he woke up in the middle of the sermon, and he just told them all off. He said, "You're all a bunch of crooks." I don't know exactly what he said. It was so embarrassing. He stormed out. And because he felt that they were controlling my mother, you know, in the decision. They probably were, obviously. But anyway, that's how we ended up here.
So, I mean, your mum had no choice. That she just had, I mean, just was your family unit. It wasn't any of the sisters?
In the religious cult?
No, that moved.
Yeah. Just my mother and the kids. Yeah.
Okay, and had you learned English at that point?
Yeah. Like, we'd learn English in Portugal, like, you know, at school. So I spoke English. I was the only one in that family who spoke English, though. No one else spoke English.
So how old were you when you landed?
16.
You were 16 and your brother was 9.
Yep.
And he didn't speak English. So were you then put as the family translator?
I was the matriarch. I was the one who looked after the family. Yes, I was. So my parents couldn't speak English at all, and my uncle decided to leave Australia 6 months after we arrived. So my parents were a bit, you know.
Did he leave to go and join the cult?
I doubt it very much. No, but my dad is really, really clever. So he learned English in 6 months. He was fluent. 6 months, which was really incredible. My mother took her a bit longer because she missed the cult. She didn't accept being in Australia very well, and she just wanted to go back to her cult, to her religious community and stuff. But she speaks fluent now too. She's very good. She went to TAFE.
She didn't create another an offshoot in Australia.
She did. She joined a religious thing here as well.
So it was a different one or the same?
Not different. They don't have the same one here. Yeah.
She didn't want to create a new branch. She just like, I'm just jump ship.
No. She just joined another one. It's much easier.
Oh, okay. So it was less, you know, you could wear less clothes if you wanted to.
Sorry?
You could wear less clothes if you wanted to. in the new cult.
Yes. And you can wear makeup and all that kind of thing. You know?
Could you cut your hair?
Yes.
Could you shave?
Yes, you can do all that now. You know, the funny thing is, like some of my aunties are still part of the cult in Portugal, and they can all watch TV. Like we couldn't watch TV back then. Like, no, watch TV. Everyone's cutting their hair, wearing jeans. They don't have to wear long skirts anymore. You know, after we leave, they decide to break all those rules. Thanks very much.
Right. Well, it got you to Australia, and so when you got there, you're now the matriarch, right? Did you find that did you resist being this role?
I really had no choice, you know, not really, not really, because someone had to help my parents, you know, we had to survive somehow. And just did it. I wasn't happy about it, to be honest. But
And how long would you say you did that role for?
quite a few years, especially with my mother. At least a good decade.
A decade. Wow. Okay. So that's, your 20s, most of your 20s.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, like once she settled, I still did my own thing, but it was just a matter of taking it to doctor's appointments, interviews for work, transport. You know, she didn't know how to move around in Sydney, that kind of thing. She was very dependent, but a decade or so later, she did get better. She went to TAFE and learned English and got a job. You know, I mean, she had a job, but it was like with Portuguese people, so she didn't have to speak English. There's a lot of Portuguese people here back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not anymore. Most people have either gone back to Portugal or gone out west. I don't know where they've gone. But yeah.
So when that shift happened, did the dynamic with your brother change because you were more boss then?
He was quite young at the time, and he had his own friends. You know, we weren't around, and I had my own like friends as well and partner, and we hardly saw each other, to be honest, my brother and I. Like we lived in the same house for quite a while, but like I said, we had different schedules. And we were good friends. We were good friends for a while. But yeah.
Did you stay for a long time in the household, or did you move out?
I had to, because mother didn't speak English, and actually my parents divorced very early on, and you know, I just had to. I couldn't leave. It was not an option.
Do you feel like that it held back any of your desires or dreams at all?
Definitely. Yeah, it did.
So do you feel this sense of you're attempting to catch up, or your perception is shift that you're going to take advantage of whatever opportunities come through now because there was a gap where you were being of service basically to your family?
I don't know about catching up. I mean, I'm just like taking each day as it comes, outside of that dynamic, you know, because it's like I don't know what I need to catch up on, kind of thing. I mean, it happened, you know, and I didn't even know of what my desires were. I was just so busy trying to survive and trying to keep the family together, kind of thing, and getting money to help us. That I now I realize, yes, I could have done things differently, you know, but what they were, I don't really know. So now I thought it was comedy, you know. I thought it, because it's just been such a huge thing in our lives. But like, you know, with dad and mum, even though they had a hard life, they always managed to make us laugh hysterically, you know, which is a saving grace. And
did you have people around you that were going through the similar situations that didn't have a sense of humor in the household?
I don't know. I don't know if there were a lot of people going through similar situations, because a lot of my friends' parents didn't get divorced. You know, they stayed together.
And so that was quite a shocking event as well then.
Yes, it was huge. It was huge. For like years, I never told anyone that my parents got divorced.
Oh, and why was that predominantly?
There was a stigma back then, you know. So yeah, it was, I mean, especially with that community kind of thing. And it was, mum was very ashamed, and, you know, it was, it's crazy to think about, you know, now it's so common, you know. Sorry, what was the question again?
I forgot. I got involved with what you were saying. That the divorce was a big shift, right? And then there was a stigma, and that you kept it quiet. How long did you actually keep it quiet that people really didn't know?
I mean, we didn't have that many friends, because, you know, we arrived late in Australia. I didn't go to school with people. Like, I arrived late as well. So the only contact we had was my uncle, who left, and our cousins. And mum was quite depressed from not speaking English and missing the cult and her mother, you know.
And it's in that order. It's English cult mother.
No, I'd say the cult would come first. No, she definitely missed her family in Portugal, very much so. And it's, you can imagine not being able to speak the language. And right. The food is different. Like, food here was terrible, you know, like, compared to Portuguese food.
Yes, and the only step below you could have gone would have been English food.
Thank God for that. No.
Oh yeah, at least there's a little bit. I mean, now you've got, you know, at least you've got good kind of Indian food in England and other ethnicities. But growing up, it was like, here's a splodge of potato and a bit of meat and peas. Ta-da! You know.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Sausage rolls and lamingtons. That's all there was around here.
So how did you make a decision that you wanted to bring in that comedic element that happened in all of your family into your life and then get on stage with it?
Honestly, it wasn't my decision. I always wanted to be an actor. So one day I decided, that's it, I'm going to be an actor. And one of the acting, and I found it really difficult. I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't like it.
I'm going to do something I don't like. Just decided.
Well, I thought I would like it, but when I actually started doing it, I didn't enjoy it. But I did love one of the teachers, who was amazing. And he gave us an exercise to do one day, and it turns out, I won't go into the exercise, but it turns out that he said to me, you should be doing comedy, you know, because of your answers and what you've done here. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. It's a lot easier than acting, I thought. You know, you don't need a whole crew. You can do your own show. You can be your own writer. You know, so I enrolled in an acting class, because I had no idea. I mean, a comedy stand-up class. I had no idea how to go around being a comedian. And it all stemmed from that. I had fun, met people, and enjoyed it, and just kept doing it.
And what do you do to help ground yourself? Because you are in a field that's very competitive with all kinds of characters.
To ground myself?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just see it as a bit of fun, to be honest. I don't, I try not to take it too seriously at all. You know, like, I go through a lot of ups and downs, you know, like sometimes I think of quitting almost weekly.
And what is the impetus of quitting? Is it because you feel like nothing is moving forward, or you don't feel good when you do it? Is there an underlying thread each time of why you want to quit?
It's mostly to do with the insecurity. Yeah, like, is my material good enough? What am I saying? Am I self-deprecating too much?
What am I saying?
Like, I mean, I can only talk about the cult so much. People were attracted initially because I talked a lot about the cult and living there and stuff. And that seemed to, create a bit of momentum. Like just with comedy, it was something different because you don't see many comedians talking about growing up in cults, I guess.
Or omitting it.
Right. Yes.
Isn't comedy in itself a cult?
Well, true, exactly. Maybe that's why I chose it, but I don't know.
Because there's community.
Yes.
Right. You have to appear a certain way. You can only be on for a certain amount of time. You must know your place. And
yes.
You have to do certain ethics or you will be outcast.
Well, we're all outcasts, aren't we?
No, the outcasts especially have to outcast people who don't fit with the outcast. Right? I guess it's human psychology. There's always got to be someone that you're better than, or each group that's the misfits then creates their own group of misfits, and there are people that misfit into the misfits. It's just a continual psychological cycle without addressing like why does human nature need to do that, and ultimately looking at our own self, right? With our as you said, your insecurities get the better of you. Do you found that as you've gone through this, it's felt healing or cathartic?
I've learned a lot. I've grown a much thicker skin than what I used to have. It's been a great self-development tool, if nothing else. It's led me to being more present, and just being more in the moment kind of thing. So I don't regret a bit of it. It's even though, I might not become a professional comedian or whatever, I don't know if it'll happen. I don't care really. It's just a fun thing to do, and running the room is a lot of fun as well. Sometimes.
I was gonna say. Well, with that, we're going to run to the end of this chat. I want to thank Anabela for joining us and telling us all about her cult. If you want to know more about her, you can find all the details down in the description. Please please share it. And we want to thank you so much for joining us for this lovely, oh my gosh, cosmic chat.